Hello, today I'll be breaking down my first ever release, Double Taker. I'll explain my thought process behind the track and how it ended up getting downloaded by one of my favourite DJs, Josh Baker. Here's a quick preview. So I'm going to start with the percussion and modulation throughout the track. So we've got this loop that starts at the start here. We've got this loop here at the start. It's kind of the most noticeable part, I think, of the track. When it comes in, you kind of know what it is. So these are just two loops, and I've made sure to keep them interesting by cutting them up and EQing this one a little bit, taking out some high frequencies here. So I've then layered that with these two little sounds here. They just sit in the background and give it a really nice texture and fills up the space a little bit. So I've got that going on there. I've also EQ'd this a lot, just give it a different feel than it originally sounded. The drums are quite simple in this track. The hi-hats and the kick. It's quite a thumpy kick. I really wanted to have a good impact and stand out in the track. And then the clap. The clap I've layered with two claps to give the track just a little bit more, to give the claps a little bit more crunch to them. This is one clap. This is the other. And together just makes them a lot more stronger. So the drums all together have a nice groove to them, and I made sure it keeps moving throughout the track. Okay, so next I'm going to talk about the kick and the bass and how they work together. So at the start, I've got the kick varied. So at the start, I've got this other channel with the bass on it. And all I've done here is EQ'd it a little bit differently. I've also added a lot of delay. And this is to just build tension for when the bass fully comes in. It's a bit more dramatic in building up until it drops. So that happens twice, and then it drops into the main bass. So this bass is just a stock Ableton bass. I've tweaked it a little bit, EQ'd it, and I've also used a sidechain compressor, sidechain to the kick, so they kind of work together, as you can see in this section down here. It just makes room for each other, and yeah. So I've got automation at the bass, at the drops here. This just builds more tension and takes the low end out, lets the track breathe a little bit. This is what it sounds like in context. Double take. So it slowly just takes the low end out. As you can see here, it's just automating, taking a lot of the low frequencies out, building up the tension as we go into the drop here. At this point it's really tight, and there's not much low end going on to give more impact for when it drops right here. So yeah, at this drop also I've got the snare, which I have not talked about yet. So we'll get into that. So the snare and the crash here, I've got them working together. so each one plays when the other one's not really, and creates a nice kind of bouncy kind of vibe until it drops. And I've got 2 risers here. On the risers, I have got a little bit of reverb here. Quite a lot of reverb, actually. It was quite dry on its own. This is with no reverb. I needed it to... I wanted the riser to drop more and just decay a lot more. So I added this big stadium reverb. Along with that other little one you hear, it's also got not as much reverb, but still enough. Okay, so next up in the track, I decided to add the lead. The lead is quite different to an average house track. It's a flute that I found in Ableton. And this is what it sounds like. So I've also done the same thing here I did with the bass. I've made a variation of it, a lot more dumbed down and simple. This just teases it for when it comes in fully. Just for one section of the track. And then it drops into the actual melody. So I've got a lot of automation on this. I've got, again, for the drops and builds, I've got reverb here, just when it comes out. And I'm pretty sure I did the same with the delay. Yeah. This is just so it exits nicely and doesn't seem as abrupt. So yeah, this with the full track, it sounds pretty good in my opinion. And it's a bit different, but I felt like it gelled well. The next part I decided to add was this offbeat bell kind of pluck sound. So this is also just stock. This is one of my early tunes, so there's not much processing going on here. But I've got some chorus. This is it without the chorus. It sounds a little bit too retro for the vibe I was going for, so I added some chorus there. And also the redux, I've used this quite a lot. Sounds a lot more muffled, not what I was going for. But with that, it just brings it kind of a little bit more prominent. This is without any effects. And this is with. So this with the lead, they kind of really go well together, especially with the whole track. This is one of my favourite parts of the whole track. So after that, I decided I need to build more energy for when the track continues. So I've duplicated the lead here, and I've just pitched it up an octave or two. I also really like how some of the notes of the high ones don't fully come through. Gives more realism and just feels more alive in the track, I feel like. This is with the rest of the track. Now this red section down here was actually really late, and this is one of the last things I added, but I felt like it just topped the track off just a little bit. It adds a little bit of pluck to the track, and I think it just finishes off the lead to make it how I'd like it to sound. This is it by itself. It's really hidden in the track, you can't hear it too well, but with the lead, it just adds that forcefulness of it. So the first breakdown, I added this new element. I really like using these chime effects. This is also in Ableton. This is what it sounds like. I really like how it sounds. I thought I need to add it. So basically what's going on here is I've got this little pattern here. So this is the original pattern I had in mind, and this bit used to be at the very start as well. So it's basically a more complex version of the lead, if you listen. Just more going on. So that goes for 2 bars. I've also taken out a lot of the notes on the main lead. This is just to give more variation and give space for this new element coming in. So this goes for 2 bars, and then I've color coded this bit because it changes. I really like that note change, and it gives more energy to the track, I feel like. So I've got another chimes down here. This is basically near enough the same. Again, it's just pitched down more. It's doing the exact same thing. So I had that idea and I was like, I need to build this up because it used to just start. None of this build up used to exist, so I added this. And it felt, the notes were perfect for what I was looking for. It just builds the tension. And eventually, when more elements come in and it builds up more, the low notes come in. And it just makes a dark vibe to it. This is it with the rest of the track. For the last drop as well, I've also added this hi-hat roll. And for this sound, I've got an auto filter on here as well, just to build, so it doesn't come in so abruptly again. Kind of builds up. And that just takes the drop to the next kind of, it gives it more energy. This doesn't happen in the first bit. Bit more basic, and then more groove, more energy, just so it all builds up to this big moment at the end. I do have this slight break here, not long into the drop, which sounds like this. So I've done this just to kind of give it a bit of space, and then goes right back into it. All I've done here is took some of the kicks away, a double kick at the last bit right here. So you get 3 and then boom, it just comes back in. I've chopped up some of the loops here. Kind of just spaced out and taken away that roll I had there. And it goes right back into it. This happens every so often. So I've got another one here. This is a lot more less. There's still a lot more going on. Just a simple crash and a little bit more complex of a kick break right there. So after that, the track kind of breaks out a little bit and kind of strips back. So we lose the lead, we lose that other little pluck on the offbeat. And it's just the bass, the high drums, this little variation of the leads and then the chimes. So the last thing I added to the track was the vocals. I didn't plan to create the vocals myself, but I ended up recording them using my cheap microphone I had at my house. I plugged it in, and a few takes later, I had the vocals. This is what they sound like on their own.
Double take, double take, double take, double take.
So what I've done is I've pitched myself down, and I've used some delay here.
Double take.
Looking back now, I could have done a lot better. I feel like I could have EQ'd a lot of the low end out. They get lost in the mix with the bass and the kick, I feel like. It's just a bit muddy. But this is, again, one of my first releases. I wasn't too sure on mixing. This is why I got this track professionally mixed and mastered. I'm now mixing and mastering my own tracks, and there's a lot more mixing improvements. Just a lot more spaced out with the breakdown here, and eventually, gradually, gets more common, more frequent. And we've got that little bit here, and it just repeats itself. I'm pretty sure, funnily enough, that was a different take, and I just kind of chopped bits up. Like these will be, yeah, I've pitched them down. I think they're all -4 semitones, but yeah, I've got this little bit of automation. Not much, if not really noticeable, to be honest. Just because it was the last vocal for a while, so I just wanted to make it kind of a statement one. You know, it's just a little bit more prominent than the others. Barely noticeable, but I felt like it was necessary. So at the end of the track, I've took a lot more out of the drums. We've got 2 kind of breaks with the kick. So yeah, I've took a lot out of the drums to just make it clear that the track's ending soon, and brought back this little offbeat thing with the basic three parts of the drums, the modulation, the variation of the leads, and the lower part of the chimes. So yeah, I also decided to not have the vocals really anywhere near the end. I don't know why, but I just felt like it's right. The last section I used it was at when I take these high bits out. At this section I also take out the variation, just to again keep it interesting for the listener. And yeah, this is the last part where I use the vocal. I have a little bit of a jump here as well. So yeah, that little bit there is just like a little stutter, and also makes it different to the rest, making it obvious that something's going to change, something's going to happen, and it does. And that's pretty much it for my first ever release, Double Taker. I hope you enjoyed. Hope you learned something new if you're a producer yourself. Yeah, thank you, and thanks for watching.